If you're wondering why farmers are so concerned about their farm finances right now, they really just can't catch a break. It's not just because corn prices are below break even for most. It's the fact input prices are so high.
Trump administration's widespread tariffs are already causing a significant drop in the price of several crops.
Well, soybean farmers in the U.S. continue to hang on for dear life as the president's trade dispute with China.
Imagine this: hundreds of giant shipping containers stacked along foreign ports, filled with perfect golden corn grown in America's heartland. The corn isn't rotten. It isn't infested. It's flawless. But here's the shocking part. Nobody wants it. Not China, not Europe, not the Middle East. Dock workers walk past it. Phones stop ringing. Contracts vanish. And all because of 4 words printed on the label: product of the United States. How did America, the world's #1 corn producer, go from being agriculture's pride to being quietly pushed out of the global market? Today, we're diving into one of the most silent but devastating crises in U.S. farming history, where billions of dollars in crops sit untouched, and rivals like Brazil and Canada are seizing America's throne. Last year alone, the United States grew over $5 billion worth of corn, yet much of it never made it past the docks. Not because it was bad, not because it failed inspections, but because buyers around the world no longer trust the label that once meant excellence. At the ports of Shanghai, Rotterdam, and Jeddah, you'll find shipping containers filled with American corn just sitting there, not being unloaded, not being bought, not being touched. The corn is as high quality as ever, but stamped across every sack is the one thing foreign buyers fear: made in the USA. This isn't the loud kind of rejection you see in movies. No angry protests, no fiery headlines. Instead, it's quiet, deadly quiet. Paperwork delayed, calls unanswered, contracts ghosted. Buyers who once begged for American corn are now slipping away in silence. Back in the U.S., farmers in Iowa, Nebraska, and Indiana are watching in disbelief. These are families who've worked the land for generations. They wake up each day to perfect crops, only to realize there's nowhere for them to go. Grain bins are overflowing. Ethanol plants are slowing down. Banks are refusing to extend seasonal loans. And yet, no one tells them the simple truth: the world doesn't want their corn anymore. The pain isn't just economic, it's psychological. Imagine putting your heart into growing something the world relied on for decades, only to watch it rot because of politics and reputation. Farmers keep refreshing their emails, hoping for purchase orders that never come. Dock workers glance at containers but don't bother moving them. It's like watching an empire crumble in slow motion. For decades, American corn was king. It powered Asia's food supply, fueled Europe's ethanol, and built the economy of the Midwest. That dominance wasn't just about food, it was about pride, about identity. But in 2023, everything changed with just a few numbers in a government report. The World Agricultural Supply and Demand Estimates revised Brazil's corn production up by 4 million tons, pushing them to a staggering 130 million tons total. It seemed like just another statistic, but to buyers across the globe, it was a lifeline. Suddenly, they had a cheaper, politically safer alternative to American corn. And just like that, long-term contracts started shifting south. Egypt canceled, South Korea delayed, Vietnam rerouted. Importers weren't making loud declarations. They were making quiet choices, choices that cut deep. Brazil didn't just have the corn. They had the timing, the logistics, and the clean political slate. While America was battling tariffs, trade wars, and policy swings, Brazil was busy harvesting their second crop and upgrading their supply chain. Buyers didn't care that the corn was nearly identical. They cared that it wasn't American, and it worked. One by one, deals that Iowa and Illinois had counted on for decades disappeared, replaced by crates from Mato Grosso and Paraná. Brazil even digitized their logistics, making it easier for buyers to track and trust every shipment. Importers loved it. The switch was so smooth, American farmers barely had time to react. But Brazil isn't the only rival capitalizing. Just across the border, Canada has been quietly stepping into the vacuum. Unlike the US, Canada isn't noisy with trade wars or policy shifts. They offer buyers something priceless in today's volatile market: stability. Canadian provinces like Manitoba and Saskatchewan have invested in high-tech export systems, automated inspections, blockchain tracking, transparent paperwork. A buyer in Japan can literally trace a shipment of Canadian corn from the field to the port on their phone. Compare that to America, where every co-op has its own messy system, and you see why importers are switching sides. The truth is brutal. Canadian corn isn't necessarily better, but it's easier. Easier to buy, easier to track, easier to trust. And in global trade, trust is everything. Meanwhile, back in the Midwest, the fallout is devastating. Towns like Cedar Rapids and Des Moines, once thriving on agriculture, now look like storage yards. Grain bins packed with last year's harvest. Farmers begging for storage extensions. Some even skipping planting because there's nowhere left to put the corn. You can drive through Iowa and see the heartbreak. Families that once lived comfortably are drowning in debt. Ethanol plants that powered local economies are scaling back. And farmers who once fed the world are now being told, without words, that the world has moved on. Here's the reality. America's corn crisis isn't about quality. It's about reputation. Global buyers don't want to gamble on a crop tied to unpredictable tariffs, sudden policy changes, and geopolitical drama. They want consistency. And today, that consistency comes from Brazil and Canada. What was once America's greatest agricultural strength has become its Achilles heel. And unless something changes, the silent rejection of U.S. corn will only grow louder. This is just the beginning, because while America struggles to sell its corn, rivals are rewriting the rules of global agriculture. Brazil is locking in multi-year deals. Canada is building the most trusted export machine in the world. And American farmers? They're stuck watching from the sidelines. These are third and fourth generation farmers, people who have done everything right, yet they're still being crushed. One elderly farmer near Dora stood beside his barn, pointing at rows of white sacks filled with corn. "We just need someone to take it," he said softly. His voice wasn't angry, it was tired of empty promises, tired of hearing about new trade deals while his phone stayed silent. Nearby, the ethanol plant has shut down 2 of its lines. The co-op is laying off staff, and the only thing growing faster than the corn is the number of foreclosure warnings. Iowa didn't fall because it stopped working. It fell because the system around it collapsed. Japan, Mexico, Egypt, once loyal buyers, are quietly moving on. Not because Iowa's corn changed, but because America became too loud, too risky, too unstable. Farmers here aren't fighting for pride anymore. They're fighting for survival. Families are mortgaging land that's been theirs for generations. Some are walking away, others are taking side jobs just to hold on a little longer. The same story is playing out in Nebraska. At the port of Shanghai, 20 containers of Nebraska corn were rejected, not for quality, but for the vague reason of unclear origin. That's all it took to send 18,000 tons of perfect grain back across the Pacific. Nebraska, once a powerhouse, is now paralyzed by outdated systems and mounting political baggage. And in Illinois, the beating heart of America's grain network, the conveyor belts have gone silent. Warehouses are stuffed. Trucks sit idle. Co-ops are selling at a loss just to make space. Meanwhile, Canada and Brazil aren't just exporting corn, they're exporting trust, speed, and certainty. Here's the cold truth. America's farmers are watching their future slip away, while rivals quietly cash in. Brazil is locking in record-breaking contracts. Canada is building trade empires with cutting-edge technology, and the profits that once flowed through Iowa, Nebraska, and Illinois are now flowing somewhere else. If you think this collapse only hurts farmers, you're wrong. It's going to ripple through food prices, fuel costs, and even global politics. And the ones who see the shift early, they're the ones who will profit. So ask yourself, when the world is rewriting the rules of food, trade, and power, are you going to watch it happen, or are you going to stay ahead of it? Subscribe now, drop a like, and join this channel, because the next chapter of this story isn't just about corn. It's about money, power, and survival. And trust me, you don't want to be the last one to find out. But the story doesn't end here. In the next phase, we'll explore how this quiet collapse is reshaping not just farming, but entire communities, economies, and even politics. Because when the world turns its back on American corn, the ripple effects go far beyond the farm.